pretty good.
Yeah.
Just like I made my own mayonnaise the other day.
Right.
I'm so happy I'm never buying this shit again. I'm just making it.
Making it.
That's right.
Classy.
Just like Joe Biden's going to make ghost guns illegal.
Oh, that was
Never underestimate my ability to force a segue.
That was excellent. Yes. So that is our topic for part 2 is Joe Biden. And we have, let's see, this video is from the 11th. So on the 11th of April, Joe Biden met in the Rose Garden with a bunch of reporters and some senators and stuff. And Kamala Harris was there. She started it within the first 2 seconds, like made a mistake. And she's just the worst. Kamala Harris is
She kicked it off?
Yeah. She's just the worst. And then the deputy attorney general was there, and then this girl spoke. I don't remember her name, but she was a young woman who was involved in a school shooting, I believe in 2019, in which a ghost gun was used. It's like a P80 Glock that the kid's dad had got and built, and then the kid took it from his dad and brought it to school. And this girl, so she told her story, obviously, and we're just going to talk about this for a second, and then we'll get into some of the details of it, because I was just so disgusted by this. They brought this girl here and had her tell her story of, my friend fucking got killed and I watched it all happen and it was peaceful, and then the gunshots, and then I was in surgery. And so and I don't mean to make light of it, because it's horrific. I have children myself, so I'm not making light of a school shooting. I'm making light of the way that they used this girl as a pawn, right?
Yeah.
Because eventually they had one of the kids who died, Damian Blackwell, I think his name was, they had his parents stand up. And I thought about that for a long time. They stood up and they're like holding a picture of their kid, And I thought for a long time about, like, how would I have this conversation with those people? How would I have this discussion with those people of, I couldn't sympathize with you anymore because I have children. And I can't imagine what it would be like to have my son for 17 years, for him to be taken away from me by somebody else.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. And I can imagine that at that point you become to the Second Amendment arguments don't hold as much weight to you as they did before, if they did before. And I can understand that. And so I've just thought a lot about that, about like, how would I react to that? Would I feel the same way about the Second Amendment if my kid was killed in a school shooting? Would I still be like, fucking all gun laws are unconstitutional? Would I still say that? And I don't know. And so
hopefully you'll never have to know.
And I think the only reason I bring that up is to mention that the emotion of this is not lost on me. I understand. I talked to Jake and Morgan a few weeks ago. We went over their house for dinner. I talked about some of this stuff, and I told them I understand my views on this are radical, in some sense. I get it. I understand that, and I'm not, that is not lost on me how far reaching these ideals seem to some people. I get it, So I'm not saying that everyone is going to believe exactly what I believe, and I don't believe that they will or that they should. But I believe that our point of view, the point of view we're going to express here, is the most liberty-minded point of view, and is the one that leads people to the most freedom overall. So
you can't save everybody in those situations, but it's not about the one. It's not about the few. It's about everyone else.
Yeah, so I said I just wanted to point out that the emotion of this is not lost on me. And some of this can sound very callous, and how would you feel your children? I get it. That's not lost on me, right?
Yeah, because no matter what happens, it's always going to be a tragedy.
Yeah, 100%. Especially when you're talking about children.
Heartbreaking, man.
Especially when you're talking about children. You're talking about somebody who's 16, 17 years old. They have not even begun to reach the potential of what their life is going to be.
Yep.
It's not lost on me. But my point with this girl, right, is that they absolutely used her as a pawn. She told her story. It seems evident to me that at the very least they gave her these things to write into her own speech, even if she wrote all her own statement here. So after she tells her story, and the sound is not working for you, so I'm just going to read the closed captions of what she said. She said, because now finally we have a president who realizes that thoughts and prayers alone are not enough, which is something that Joe Biden has said 1,000 times, right? She says, a president who has been standing up to the gun lobby for decades and winning. Again, something he literally has been saying since he's been running for president. Yep, and he's just sitting there in his aviators just watching. A president who has been standing up for survivors like me and so many others against something that he said for years. A president who is taking bold, meaningful action to stop the spread of ghost guns. Again, something he has been saying for months now. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to introduce the strongest gun sense commander-in-chief ever to hold office, President Joe Biden.
That's what Kamala said.
That's what this girl says.
Oh.
The young girl. That's what I'm saying to you. They had this, they wrote it into the young girl speech. They had her talk about how she was shot in a school shooting, and that's how they have her understatement. Is with political talking points about the president.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
How old was this girl?
This was this video or this girl.
How old
she
is-
was in
yeah.
high school. She's got to be 19 years old.
Okay.
I mean, she's just out of high school.
Yeah. Real activist age right there. And understandably so, obviously, given her experience in life. Yeah.
Certainly. She's working with every town and all of the anti-gun lobbies. All of the anti-gun lobbies, she's working with them. So I'm not surprised. I don't necessarily blame her. I do and I don't.
Yeah.
So she's a child. I'm not going to... Doesn't matter. But I'm disgusted by the way they used this girl. She's a victim. That girl's a victim. She was shot. She was shot in the stomach, watched her friend die, was in surgery, thinking about her friend dying, all this type of shit. She talked about all this thing. You used her as a pawn.
Yeah.
You just used this girl as a pawn in the game of politics, and that is fucking gross.
Yes.
that is disgusting.
That's like my biggest takeaway out of that is you're exploiting somebody's tragedy to make sure that you get this your little pet peeve piece of legislation.
And get your dub.
Yeah.
Try and get the dub.
To just literally use you as a pawn. I don't understand. Like, I don't like the mixing of like personal tragedy with the political push because it is so very. It's emotionally twisted, man. Like it's so evil to try to take advantage of somebody, even if it's a legitimate point they're trying to push like that. If this is something that she would do on her own like this, like you would think that instinctually you would not want to appear like you are taking advantage of this person by having her go up in the Rose Garden in front of like the national media is there, like everything. You need to know what that looks like to people that don't agree with you.
Right.
Because you not only come off like you're using this person as a pawn, but you're taking advantage of their own personal tragedy to try to gain a personal W.
Yeah.
That is just disgusting, man.
When
Like regardless of the validity of whatever it is you're trying to point out. Having that person go up there and just, I mean, can you imagine the trauma that's you relive by like retelling your story like that? By pushing them up on the federal stage so you can get a political W? A possible political W? Not even like achieve something? That's just disgusting, man. And anybody that would allow anybody that can't see what's happening there, like I don't trust you anymore.
Right.
Man, how can you not see this for what it is?
Because it's one thing when she's telling her story. It's one thing when she's telling her story because people do that all the time. They go and they share their tragedy, and this is why this needs to change because no one should be subjected to what I was subjected to. But at the end, there's no way she's just paying enough attention to Joe Biden that she's like, I'm going to put all these things in the end of my statement. They 100% asked her to say it. That's my take on the scenario. I don't have any way to prove that happened. I feel very strongly from what I know of politics. They absolutely had that girl tack that onto the end of her statement because I don't think there's any way she's going to think, I should write these things that he's saying every time he's out there. Or else she would have also said fucking deer in Kevlar vest or whatever, Like, which he also said here. Yeah. Those things, they were not missed. Yeah, they were not missed.
Joe Biden loves him some Kevlar deer.
Yes.
I've yet to see the rare native species of the Kevlar deer.
Because that's the only thing that brought all these magazines about is that we started getting at deers that had Kevlar vests on.
Yeah, man.
There's
you got to put 30 rounds into that thing just to bring it down so you could bring some venison home.
Said, you must be one hell of a bad shot if you need a 30-round magazine, he said. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
So
such an idiot. Nobody's carrying around 30-round magazines into the woods to go hunting, dude.
Yeah,
period.
I mean, people,
That's just dumb.
No, I would imagine even most people who hunt with AR-15, unless you're hunting like hogs or something where you're gonna expend 30 rounds. If you're hunting deer or some shit with an AR-15, you probably don't have a 30-round magazine, because why would you shoot 30 rounds while you're out? You might have one with you, but I think it's all conjecture. But I think it's probably rare that people are hunting deer with a 30-round mag in their AR-15.
Yeah.
You're talking about added weight, and it's going to be harder to put down. There's all kinds of things. It doesn't make. You can buy 10-round magazines that sit almost flush with the mag well.
Yep.
It's
a much more comfortable carry, man, when you got to pack fucking 5 to 10 miles into the woods and all that shit. But I was going to bring up the concept of the AR-15 hunting. In this state, that's mostly not a thing.
Right.
And that's because there's laws in place in our state that say, require
thing, right?
calibers. Yeah. And so unless you were to custom build a higher caliber, something like that. I mean, you could do it in an AR-10 platform, but yeah, you really got to bump the caliber up if you're going to do that, because that is the threshold. And you could tell in legislation it's there on purpose to prevent or to dissuade people from actually using an AR when they hunt.
Right.
It's because that's the caliber cutoff
So
right
I think
there.
most people don't realize, especially if you're not into guns. I mean, calibers and all that stuff is very complicated anyway, but like a .223 bullet or a .556 bullet that an AR-15 shoots is like barely larger than a 22.
Yeah.
Barely larger.
A 22 LR.
Yeah, it's barely larger. It's just a little bit wider and a little bit longer. It's barely larger width-wise, diameter-wise of a 22, and that's why you can't shoot with it. So,
yeah, and most of it has to do with like the amount of powder that's in the casing. I mean, the actual bullet size
it's just a keg of powder comparatively to a 22.
Yeah, it's nothing. Actually, it's funny. Somebody was talking last night in Carolina's Twitch stream. We were talking calibers of guns and stuff, and it had to do with they were playing Warzone, Call of Duty. But they asked, like, what's a 22 LR? Oh, it's just a standard. That's what you think of as a 22.
Right.
This tiny little, the bullets are about, yay
Super,
big,
super small,
super tiny.
They make a sound like that.
Yes, there's
little
zero
crack.
kickback.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is they make 22 caliber called Vermin shot, and it's like a little mini shotgun shell almost built into this tiny little thing with all these little pellets and a clear coating on the outside, so for like blasting rats and squirrels and vermin around the house. we used to kill lots of rodents like that when we were kids. It's a good time.
They make gun tangent, but they also make like subsonic 22 rounds, so they don't break the sound barrier. You can even suppress those and stuff like that. And at that point, you're really only hearing the action of the gun, like the bolt slamming back and forth, because it's so quiet. Then you can still kill like rabbits and little birds and stuff like that with those. Like that's very common for hunters. If they're trying to hunt big game and they haven't found it yet, they'll bring a little 22. You can get them with like folding stocks and stuff like that. Pack it down real small and put it in your bag, and screw a little suppressor on there, and you can hunt small game to eat while you're out and not disturb any of the big game that are out there, because it sounds just like a twig that's snapping. It's not anything that's going to bother them,
Yeah. Ask me if I've done that before. Of course I have.
Yeah, and it only makes sense, I mean, it only makes sense to do that type of thing. If you're trying to go as light as possible, and like I don't even want to bring food, that only makes sense to do that. Or if you're going to go out in like your truck or something like that and camp for a few days and hunt out of your truck, that only makes sense to just do that and just have a little stove,
Oh yeah.
So
I did that literally last year. Literally last year, kept it around because there's these things called forest grouse all over the place up here, right?
Birds.
We call it a forest chicken.
Yes.
Because they're about the size of a chicken, except they fucking fly, man.
Up into the trees.
Up into the trees, man, and it's hard to get them like that. But most of the time they hang out on the ground, and half of them are so fucking stupid. You could because their first like emergency their like fight or flight method is just to stand there. Just gonna freeze. Hopefully I'm camouflaged with the ground.
So stupid.
And so I've literally almost like kicked one before as I'm walking by it. And then as soon as you get too close, they fucking and they fly off next to you and like make you piss yourself.
Yeah.
So then you just get angry and you want to kill them for that, and then you're thinking about trying to roast their carcass over a fire at night, and that's what you get for fucking scaring me.
Bastards.
But anyways.
Welcome to the south of the streets, coming at you every